CJ Peterson, and welcome to The Journey is Real. We talk to real people with real passions who share a real portion of their hearts. Today, my guest is René Murata. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly.
Yes.
And we're going to be talking transformational leadership, leading with purpose and passion. Thank you for coming on today, René.
Thank you, CJ, for having me. I appreciate it.
How did transformational leadership become a passion of yours? Because that's kind of a unique one.
So, I was thinking about that because I've been asked that question a little bit recently. And when you sent me this, I was like, how did I get into this? It really started. It really started because, yeah, first of all, my whole world has always been math, physics, kind of in that masculine world, right? I'm 6 foot tall. I'm a really tall woman. So I've always been kind of stood out, and yet I was never heard, never acknowledged, never appreciated. I was looked over for promotions. Women really struggled with having me around because they would see this, this tall, intelligent woman and be immediately daunted by, me, and I'm so scary. Those of you who can't see me, I'm really scary.
Yeah.
But
I'm with you. I'm almost 6 foot tall, and it's the same thing. It's like a torch in my hand. Call me Lady Liberally. I am right here. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm here to encourage you.
I just want to help people. So, so it was really, I struggled a lot with being able to move forward in any capacity, right? Whether I was in school, whether I was in work, it didn't really matter. So I worked in all of my years, I only had one boss that I really, truly loved. He was wonderful. He knew he was not a good communicator. And so he had all these communication books, and he was an electrical engineer. And we had just a great rapport. And I learned real early that I could communicate with different people from different settings, different backgrounds. It didn't matter. I speak multiple languages, so maybe that's part of it. Part of it, I think, is also not having been heard for so many years that I just really focused on listening to people, right? So I ended up starting my own business in the gas and oil realm. And
the big one,
yeah,
especially females, that's a huge leap.
Yes. So I worked there for a couple of years, and then I started a consulting business there. I still have that business. And I was approached by somebody actually in the health and wellness realm asking me if I would mentor her. And I thought, I can't mentor you. I don't know anything about your world. So it was really kind of interesting that she approached me from this gas and oil realm to help her with her wellness center. And so that's really kind of how I started. I started realizing that I express things differently. I express things in a way that makes sense to people. Again, I think that all of those years of not being heard and imagining how I could say things differently and people would notice. And, I think all of that, coupled with the fact that I do speak multiple languages, I've traveled around the world, so I've seen different cultures, really it gives me a way to talk to people that really allows them to understand what it is that I'm saying. So that was how that got started.
But you kind of literally and figuratively. See, I cannot talk this morning. Literally and figuratively speak their language in some cases, and
Correct.
We're able to relate to them on different levels and connect with them on a different level. And that's good because that'll let somebody know that you're at least trying to understand them.
Correct. Yeah. And so then the transformational part, right, is I literally transformed myself from being a not heard, not seen, not understood kind of person into a business leader and now a coach. Right, I've transformed from being very depressed. I went through severe depression. I was a Me Too survivor, bullied all through high school. So I traveled those journeys, and have come out of it on the other side. I now do, a variety of different types of things to help women and men. Actually, I work with men too, but primarily women, to really step fully into who they are in a way that is a sacred, divine kind of energy, as opposed to that negative, distorted kind of energy that we see so much of.
Well, and when you grow up being kind of bullied or picked on, or something like that, I get it. I've been this
Yep.
for a very long time. And when you grow faster than the boys, you tend to get railed. Girls don't
Yep.
want to be around you because they're intimidated by you. Boys don't want to be around you because you're taller than half of them. And
Right.
so, I get it.
Yeah.
A lot of times, what that puts forward that people don't understand is it puts forward a very self-conscious
Yep.
attitude. I grew too fast multiple times.
Yep.
And so a lot of times I ended up with floods because my pants would grow too fast than my legs. I'm very long legged and they would grow
Yep.
fast. So like when pedal pushers came out and stuff like that, I refused to wear them. I'm like, no, I want long leg jeans.
So with you, TJ.
And so it's like, I get it.
Yeah.
What was, you mentioned a couple of different things. One of them was struggling
Right.
with depression. And like I said, I get it because you get self-conscious. You think, when you're that tall, that fast, you kind of hunch down a little bit and kind of try to blend in with everybody else. You're not the cute little cheerleader.
Yep.
You're not, whatever. I was an athlete. So, I was able to handle a lot of things that way. And that's where I got, some respect from people. But it's like, other than that, when we go to parties and stuff, I would kind of hunch down and
Yep.
not seem quite so tall to
Yeah.
so the guys would kind of notice me and still come talk to me, or I'd stay sitting down the entire time.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
so it's like you get really self-conscious. So when you jump into different worlds, like business worlds in particular, or male dominated worlds, which is where I lived most of my life as well,
Mhm.
you kind of have to. You get a tough skin, but you kind of are also self-conscious because you are not male. This is really
Exactly.
not your world, but it is. One of those jobs was a catastrophe adjuster. So I worked with roofers. Not only was I a female in a male job, but I'm dealing with roofers, which are a tough crowd. And
Yep.
so it's like you have to kind of bow up and be your tall self. Otherwise, you will get plowed over.
Right.
And so it took me a while to reach that point within the jobs that I worked at. I thought, I'm actually doing just as well, if not better, than some of the guys in these jobs. And that's
Mhm.
where I'm like, you know what? I can do this. I don't care what they say. So, what was that one defining moment for you? Because you mentioned the depression and everything. What was that one shift moment?
So for me, well, there were three things that occurred, and they occurred sequentially. One was that with the depression, coming out of it was around my kids. It was all because of the kids. My son was 18 months old, and he couldn't understand why mommy was laying on the sofa crying all the time, and barely capable of getting up to feed him, let alone be a mother. And so it was something he said one day. Mommy cry, why mommy cry,
Aw.
kind of got me up and got me moving. So that happened. And then my father, who was my very best friend, he passed away 15 years ago, next month, actually.
Sorry,
And
I love that. Mine in January.
was,
We were like co-conspirators. So
yeah,
again,
we,
are we like in the same?
I think we're probably sisters from another lifetime.
That's what I'm thinking because we have a lot of similarity going on.
Yeah. So that was when my dad passed away. That was a really defining moment for me because he was such a compassionate person, and he knew everybody's names. He knew their wives' names, their husbands' names, their kids' names. He knew where they studied. He knew, he just remembered things. He connected with people. People loved my father. And so when I lost him, I'm the oldest, so I really had to kind of step into that role in my family.
Mhm.
And then we moved from Southern Oregon to Northern California. And I had a boss who absolutely, I can tell you the day and the time. It was June 29th, 2009 at 9:37 a.m. that I made the decision that I was no longer going to be treated the way I was treated. And it was that I got off that phone call and just was shaking. And that was the point. It took me 6 months to start my own business, but that's when I started my business with the intent to lead in a different manner than what I had witnessed and observed and been, victim of for so many years in so many different areas. And I just thought, there's got to be a different way of leadership. There has to be one that combines integrity, combines compassion, combines empowerment, one that they treat people with respect always, no matter what. Now, I will be the first to say that I have made my mistakes, right? At the same time, I actively work towards that kind of leadership. And when I'm upset with somebody, I will send my marketing director a note and say, okay, Janet, read this. Did I take all of the anger out of my message? Did I take all my frustration out of that message? And so I actively started working towards moving and developing a way to help other women also be able to lead that way. Because like you said, when we're tall and we stand out in any way, shape, or form, we tend to move into that man suit. I'm going to say it that way, right? We wore that man suit for a while. We're aggressive and domineering. I didn't want to be that either.
Yeah.
So, I played the small role.
It's almost like a mental game that you kind of
It
play with
is.
yourself to give yourself permission
Yeah.
to step into that world.
You kind of feel like you have to. The thing is, I've learned that you really don't. And so, I realized that what was happening is I was in the distorted feminine and then the distorted masculine, and I really wanted to be in that sacred, divine, positive energy, both the masculine and the feminine. We all have that element inside of us, and so I wanted to be able to run my business that way. And so when that woman asked me if I would mentor her, I think it's because she saw that. And it took me a while to realize that that was different, right? It was different and not the norm, even though I had actively sought to create something different. So that's kind of how it all came to be for me.
One of the jobs I was in, I ended up being a supervisor, and all the other supervisors on staff were male other than me. And I saw how they ran stuff. It was almost as if the others were below them. And it kind of drove me crazy because I'm like, do you not remember the position you were in before? You were in their shoes. What are you doing?
Right.
So what I did was I went to each person who had a station and I said, what do you need to make sure that your station is run properly? Because I want my shift to be the best shift out there. In order to do that, I need to make sure that my people are taken care of.
Exactly.
Not only did they become very loyal, their performance on my shifts went way up.
Yep.
And the other thing that happened is people from other shifts started coming to me.
Yeah.
And when I was going, why are they going to her? I don't understand. I said, because I actually listen to them and care and make sure that they have what they need. Are you doing that? Or are you staying in your chair behind your desk?
Right.
That's how it works. And so when you lead that way, it makes a huge difference in the lives around you, because then they know. I've always gone with the phrase, they don't care what you know until they know that you care. You can be the most intelligent person in the entire building, in the entire company, but if you act that way, they're not going to care what you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you've taken a lot of what you've learned over the years and you kind of transformed it, as we were talking, transformations, into teaching others to do the same. How do you do that?
Right.
Are there classes, webinars, books? What is there?
So a couple of different things, right? I have an online course. I have another one about to launch, and then I have or video course that they can take for people that are just really kind of getting into that whole concept of I can lead differently. Then I also have a course that's launching. Not launch. I'm launching another level of it in July. So in June they can come in, and so each quarter they can come in and start doing that course. It's a year-long course, and I take people through a self-mastery level first because they have to understand they've got to release some of their own trauma, some of the things that are keeping them from being in leadership, because you and I both know that happen. You know, if you haven't released it, you can't lead.
It
Then
weighs
I take them
down.
into
You can't fly, and you can't teach others to fly if you're way down.
exactly. The next level is really the team dynamics. And so this is what's interesting. If you've worked with men, um, if you have not been in a team setting where you feel that you are an active part of that team, then you need to learn how to be in a team setting and a team dynamic before you can be in a leadership role. And even if you bypass all of that and you're in a leadership role, if you were never good at the other pieces, you have to learn those pieces before you're going to be a real leader. And so I have this course, the Quantum Leadership, that I'm doing, and I also am doing. So yeah, that's my showcase piece. That's the one that I think is that I love. I just love it.
That's the biggest one where you're taking people from this point
Yeah.
to this point. They can't do anything until they go through that point.
They have to go through every level. It's how we naturally did it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can speed that up for people so they don't have to spend 30 years going through the trudges and get to where they want to be. So, yeah.
Awesome. So people who want to find out more about you and your online courses, where can they find you online?
The best way is renemurata.com, but they can find me LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, either under René Murata or CEO Essence, because that's the name of the company.
And can you spell that for those who are listening? The website.
So René Murata is ReneMurata, and CEO Essence is CEOESSENCE, no spaces.
Great.
So
We have about 3 to 5 minutes left. Is there anything you'd like to add?
So, compassionate leadership is possible. It really is possible. And, today, sadly, we're seeing not enough of it throughout the world and in the US. I'm currently not living in the US, but I see what's happening over there. My family's still there. So it is possible, and it really comes from women being nurturers. We're naturally nurturers, so we could step into that more easily than men. I am stereotyping and generalizing, so please, please
Yes
don't hold that against me.
Yeah,
but
yes,
it's true.
because guys are usually logic forward,
Right.
and women are usually emotional forward. So sometimes
Exactly.
we get ourselves in trouble because of that, and sometimes guys get themselves in trouble because of just the logic. It's when you
Right. So it's that marriage of the two.
when you put the two together, it has a balance. Especially if a married couple realizes that and recognizes that, it makes it for a stronger marriage. My husband and I are that way, and it's like we have that balance between, okay, there's some logic in here, but there is some intuition that's with it as well, and emotional guidance that needs to be taken into consideration.
Yeah, very much so. And it's not just the balance of the masculine and feminine, right? It's the balance of that sacred divine, that positive. I like to use sacred divine just because it feels good to me, but it is that positive masculine feminine, not the negative, because there is that, right? So that's really, it is possible. It really is possible, and it's easy to learn. It's fun to learn, and it's yeah. So
well, and it'll make you a better leader. And
makes
you
you a
don't
better
necessarily
leader.
have to be in a leadership position to be a leader.
No.
You can
No.
be a leader in anything that you do in life. You can be
Volunteer work,
in your
you
church,
know.
in your community center,
Yep,
and wherever you are, you can be a leader, and you can be a good
absolutely.
one if you
There's
have
a
that balance.
there's a difference between being a leader and being a manager.
Mhm.
And I think that's where some people forget, right? They assume they're in a management role that makes them a leader. That's not the case. And they think that they can't be a leader because they're not a manager, and that's not the case either. So you're right. It doesn't matter, leadership comes from within.
Mhm.
It comes from within,
And
for
there's a
sure.
natural progression. You can be in the bottom rung of the ladder in the company, but if you are a leader, naturally you will start to
Yep,
go up because people will notice that, and people will
absolutely.
want you to be over them. And it's like, it's not because they want, there's a difference between being a dictator and being a leader. And
Yep,
when you're a leader, people want you to help them because they know that you are helping them to be a better person and a better leader as well.
because you inspire and empower.
Hmm. Definitely.
Very much so.
Well, thank you for coming on today, Renee, and
Thank
sharing
you for
your
having me.
heart and sharing your passion. It was a unique passion, but I loved a lot of what you were saying when we were emailing, and I'm like, nope, I need her on here. And now I know why, because we were like sisters from like generations ago.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Well, when I come to Texas and visit my daughter, I'll have to come to
Definitely,
Serenity Acres and check it out.
definitely. Let me
Yeah,
know. We'll
yeah.
sort it out. We'll figure it out.
We'll
Um,
figure it out.
but thank you for coming on today. And
Thanks for
anyone
having me.
else interested in learning more about Renee or her leadership talents and her leadership abilities and learning about transformational leadership, you can find her at www.renemurata.com. And thank you guys for listening to The Journey is Real. We talk to real people with real passions who share a real portion of their hearts. I'm CJ Peterson of cjpetersonwrites.com. Until next time.